Welcome back, you guys, to Chokin' Hazard. My name is Zach, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Stand, which is a new 2020 adaptation of the Stephen King book The Stand, which is the exact same name. And it's on CBS All Access, but I don't know if anybody actually has that or even is paying for that. But anyways, let me go ahead and just talk and just jump straight into it, because I have a lot to talk about. And for those of you who don't know, I am a big horror movie watcher. I love horror shows. I like playing horror video games. I love horror. My favorite holiday is Halloween, okay? I'll get into that. Now, for example, I'm really big into H.P. Lovecraft. Has nothing to do with Stephen King, except for the fact that Stephen King based a lot of his, or got inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's work. So, I'm a big fan of Stephen King as well. I've watched Cujo, I've read Cujo, The Shining, It, Salem's Lot, Sleepwalkers, which kind of sucks, The Stand, Carrie. Is that all of them? I'm not sure if that's all of them. I think I've read a couple others. I just can't remember. Maybe it's The Mist? I think. Could be wrong. Anyways, so I've read quite a bit of his work. I like some of the adaptations that that come from his work that they do into movies and shows and things like that. But after watching a lot of his the adaptations of the books, I have come to realize that some of these adaptations should never exist. They just, the stories do not work for movie or show adaptations whatsoever, and they should be put down 6 feet under because they just absolutely suck major cock. Like, it's just, that's all I can say about it. For example, Sleepwalkers. Let me show you a clip there. Yeah, that guy is getting eaten alive and lit on fire by a cat, okay? And it's supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be horrifying, but, when you put, pen to paper, sometimes it doesn't, actually come out the way you want it to, okay? And it's actually hilarious in the in the movie adaptation, big time. So, I've come to the conclusion that the Stand book should have never been put into like a TV show format. It just does not work. It just doesn't work. And I'm not saying that the show is really bad, it's just really fucking boring. The best way I can explain it, for those of you who have read 1984, I mean, it's such a popular book, and I think everybody's had to have read it, maybe at least in high school or college or something like that. I know that's George Orwell, that's not Stephen King at all, but you know how George Orwell in 1984 has lots of exposition and explaining that he does in that book? Lots of it is just explaining the world, explaining things, how things work, what's going on, inner monologue in your head. Now, it doesn't work into a movie, and that's why there isn't a good movie or show based off of 1984, because it just doesn't work when you translate it into TV or movie format. It just doesn't. Because the thing is that you can make something interesting when you're giving out exposition in a book, because it makes your mind run wild and you can kind of like visualize what they're explaining. But when somebody is just blatantly explaining something to you in a show, and you can see it, it's not a book, it kind of breaks that cardinal rule of show don't tell. And when you translate certain things from book to show, sometimes you have to explain stuff, even though it's really boring and tedious when it comes to the visual storytelling. And that's kind of the problem that kind of comes into play with The Stand and that translation into show. So, for example, the first half of The Stand, when it comes to like, the book is like this thick. It's like It, you know what I mean? It's like a textbook. So it's not first half, maybe like first quarter or 1/3. It just explains how society crumbles down from this virus. By the way, I forgot to explain what the story was about. The story generally is basically a virus that comes out of this laboratory, and it sounds kind of like something that happened today, right? And ends up killing 99.9% of the population. It's just a super flu. They call it Captain Trips. Makes your neck get all swollen. You end up dying within 2 days. Okay, so it's a very bad virus. Kills most pretty much everybody, and there's like a select few group of people who are just immune to it, okay? Then basically it kind of feels like The Walking Dead in the show. Basically, like some good people come together and they make like a little society, and then another group of people that are like a bad group of people form a society, and they end up kind of fighting with each other. Kind of reminds me, as I said, like The Walking Dead with Negan and Rick, where they have like two separate groups, like one's good and one's evil, and they're like fighting against each other. It's the same thing here. So a lot of the characters in the show, like there's the Stand has a freaking shit ton of characters. It's kind of like The Walking Dead, except you know how in The Walking Dead they had like 4 or 5 seasons to kind of like build up each character. This one has 1 season, so you're like expecting to like get to know like 5 or 6 main characters, and just they're trying to make you care about all of them, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, so what they do is, as I said, they skip from like society's breaking down, now they're together in like a cute little family in the good guy group, right? Well, the thing is though, is that the good guy group, they show them there, and they basically kind of just like cut to that, kind of, and then they try to like get you to like each of them by doing like little flashbacks back and forth between characters. So there'll be like one episode's about this one person, flashback. One episode's about this other person, flashback. Another's about another episode, flashback. And they flashback so many times that it like kills the pace of the show, because then you're like in the apocalypse, you're not in the apocalypse. You're in the apocalypse, you're not in the apocalypse. You're apocalypse, you're not in the apocalypse. And you're just like, yo, dude, like, and you never get to see that society breakdown sort of part. It's just like before apocalypse, after apocalypse, so it's almost like you're not getting the interesting stuff, and it really bores you. The other thing is too, is that a lot of the characters are kind of neutered, and I'll explain a couple of them. You don't need to know most of them. Most of them are just like average performances, and they go, generally speaking, of how it goes down in the book. But there's a couple characters that I need to that are noteworthy for me to explain to you. So number one, I really like this character named Nick Andros in the book called The Stand. And what's cool about him is that in The Stand, he is a mute 22-year-old. He ends up getting his ass kicked in a bar. He gets thrown in jail. The apocalypse comes, or the virus, Captain Trips, kills everybody. The warden is dying of this virus and actually lets him out because he knows he's not like a bad guy or whatever. He's like, you're the warden now. So then he has like this moral dilemma. This mute guy has this moral dilemma of having like to release certain prisoners and like watch certain prisoners die, you know, because like if they're dangerous, if they're sick, you don't want the virus getting out. Like he goes through all these different things, and there's a lot of inner monologue and thinking in the book when it comes to Nick. The problem is that, as I said, when you try to translate a mute person from a book where you can kind of be in his head, you know, he's kind of like the narrator when you're on like that part of the book with him. When you jump into TV or movie format, you're just watching a person not talk, right? And it kind of fucks everything up when it comes to like your viewing pleasure. So they kind of like knocked Nick into the background, you know what I mean? And the thing is that even like the beginning part, the beginning storyline with him is completely changed. So instead of like that jail part with like the moral dilemma, they just, after he gets his ass kicked in the bar, he gets his eye hurt, and then they put him in the hospital, okay? And that's like not the compelling part to me, you know? It just kind of, they kind of neutered him. And I get it. It's not really the writer's fault. I mean, they could do better, but it just doesn't work from like book to movie format. And that's a lot of the problems when it comes to this show, is that it just does not translate very well. Okay, so because Nick is a mute kid and they just like kind of push him to the sidelines, right? They put actually a side character, like not one of the main cast of characters, a side character as probably one of the mains. For example, Harold. Which Harold in the book is this kid with Asperger's that likes one. I forget what it is because I haven't read the book in a long time. I think it's his not caretaker, his babysitter when he was little or something like that. Her name is Fran. So, anyways, Harold in the book, right? He's 6'1", weighs 240 pounds. He's fat. He's chunky, right? And he has Asperger's, so he's not a very cool kid. He gets bullied at home and school a lot. He's just a nerdy, dorky person that has kind of like he's just awkward, right? He's just an awkward dude. But you could tell that like if shit hit the fan with Geralt, like if he had to defend himself, he could probably do it because he's such a big dude, right? And that's cool and everything like that. The problem is that he ends up becoming one of the spoiler alert antagonists later in the book and show. The problem is they kind of neuter him in the show because he's not a 6'1", 200 and almost 50-pound hulking behemoth, right? He's like this skinny, torpy guy that you wouldn't really be afraid of if he became like evil or bad. Okay, so like I could kick his ass. I'm 5'6", right? Now, like the 240-pound, 6'1" Asperger's Geralt could just fall on me. You know what I mean? So it's like they're just kind of, he's not as scary, and he's supposed to be scary later when he becomes an antagonist, okay? And they kind of neuter him there when it comes to that. The other thing is that they put him in the spotlight in the show because Nick can't speak. So they put him there. They're like, okay, side character you're put in there. So you could tell a lot of the dialogue they just kind of came up with on the spot, and they just kind of threw it on the screen because they don't actually have that much dialogue with him. And they obviously, the book is this big. They have some dialogue with him. But he's not a main character. He's a side character that happens to become bad, okay? And a lot of the show is really annoying because of him. Like, you're just dealing with this guy who's like a total simp. Like, you could totally, he looks like a school shooter, okay? In the TV show, they make him really annoying and like obvious that he's gonna be bad. As in the book, he's kind of like, you kind of feel bad for him, right? He's like kind of like this lovable oaf, you know what I mean? Like where he's just a big hulking guy, but he's kind of just like he won't defend himself, you know. So you feel bad for him. As in the show here, they make him seem a lot more crazy than he actually is, and you feel less bad for him in this case. And it's kind of funny because like in the book you actually end up feeling kind of sorry for him, and in this case you're like, fuck this guy, you know. They just kind of like they just I don't know, they didn't understand his character. I feel like they either did that or they just put him so much in the spotlight they kind of ruined it by giving away too much. I don't know. He didn't work for me. Another interesting thing too, I'll tell you about another character that I really wish they would have nailed, and they had to have nailed, and they needed to nail, and they just couldn't. They just didn't do it. It's almost like how bad not getting this character right is. It's almost like the Joker from Batman. If you fuck up that character in like a movie or whatever, it just ruins the whole movie. Like if he's not compelling, scary, energetic, enthusiastic, and stuff like that, it ruins everything else. Okay, so this is kind of the same thing with this character. So one of the coolest characters, by the way, of all time, his name is Randall Flag. Okay, Randall Flag is such an awesome, mysterious character in the Stephen King universe. Okay, for any of you guys who aren't like Stephen King fanatics like I am, basically Randall Flag is like the Joker of the Stephen King universe. He appears in multiple books. He also is like cameos. He has cameos and a bunch of other things. He is a huge menace in the Dark Tower. What's his name? I forget what his name is. They did the stupid movie for the Dark Tower that wasn't very good. Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey in the Dark Tower. That is also Randall Flag, which is actually really interesting because his name in the Dark Tower, I think, is Walter O'Dim. And if you actually look on like the wiki or whatever about the Dark Tower movie, the casting, right? It actually says at the bottom underneath Matthew McConaughey is Randall Flag, not the name they actually give him in the movie, which is really interesting. I like how they kind of threw that in there as like a little nugget, that it's Randall Flag from The Stand, which is awesome. This is Editing Zach from the future. Real quick, I just wanted to say something. If you type it on the PC, casting for Dark Tower, Matthew McConaughey, it will say Walter for the bottom, which is Walter O'Dim. But if you actually look on your phone and you click casting for Dark Tower, it will actually give you a completely different name at the bottom. It says Randall Flag for Matthew McConaughey for Dark Tower. Which is interesting because there's so many aliases for Randall Flag that they didn't know what to put for the phone and then the PC, which is really interesting. Also, if you guys don't believe me, why he's so cool, Randall Flag has an appearance as a really cool villain in The Witcher 3. And I know you're probably thinking, like, Witcher 3? Are you kidding me? Like, the video game Witcher 3? You know, by CD Projekt Red? Yes. CD Projekt Red has Randall Flag in it. And you're probably thinking, like, what? Really? If you have played Witcher 3, there's a character named Gaunter O'Dim, okay? In the Dark Tower, the main antagonist is Walter O'Dim. They do the exact same thing. They're the exact same character. And they're basically they're a entity of time and space. They can grant wishes. They can do magic. They're supposed to be sorcerers. They're supposed to be like a demon sorcerer, okay? And they scar people and mark people for, you know, to be like, I own that person, right? They do the exact same thing. So Gaunter O'Dim from Witcher 3, one of the coolest characters, by the way, is also Walter O'Dim, or aka Randall Flag from The Stand, which is just fucking mind-blowing. And I remember playing the game, and I was like, is that Randall Flag? That's Randall Flag. That's awesome. Like, Randall Flag's awesome. And he makes so many other cameos and other books and series and shows and stuff like that, but unless you actually know the character, you won't actually catch it, which is amazing. It's, like, meant for Stephen King fanatics like me. It's amazing. I love it. But, yeah, they fucked up this character. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there. And the reason they fucked up this character is that, let me go ahead and explain how they explain what Randall Flag is like. Because Randall Flag is a very interesting character, and I think they either messed up, well, they messed up the delivery on some of his lines, but it's not just that. The actor who plays Randall Flag shouldn't have been Randall Flag. That's just my opinion. That's more of like a personal problem with me. You know what I mean? Like, I know it can't be perfect, but they had to have nailed it, and they had to pick a specific type of person to play that character, and they just didn't. They didn't know the character well enough, and they put not a shitty actor. They just put an actor that it was not good for the job, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So Randall Flag is played by Alexander Skarsgård. I don't remember him from anything, but he looks too good looking. That's all I'm trying to say. The way Randall Flag is portrayed is basically, let me explain to you. So this is how they explain how Randall Flag looks like, right? A face that radiated a horrible, handsome warmth. A face to make water glasses shatter in hands of tired truck stop waitresses. To make small children crash their trikes into board fences and then run wailing to their moms with stake-shaped splinters sticking in their knees. It was a face to guarantee to make a barroom argument over baiting average turns bloody. So, like, when they explain it that way, right? Like, they said his face is handsome, but I feel like they needed him to have, like, a shit-eating grin, right? He has, like, this, like, you know, like, this, like, evil grin that's, like, you can tell that he's, like, a bad guy. Like, you're, like, there's something about him, kind of like, you know, he has, like, this, like, smile, this, like, shit-eating grin that's, like, he's happy about bad things that are happening. And he's, like, good-looking, and he's handsome, but he has, like, this, like, just ode about him that, like, just screams, I don't want to be next to this guy, right? And that's what I think. They should have had a guy that had, like, a real shit-eating grin that would, like, make you go, like, fuck that guy, right? Kind of like King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, or another good one would be Ramsay Bolton, the actor who plays Ramsay Bolton. I can think of plenty of other actors that have, like, you know, they could be a bad guy, but they have, like, that shit-eating grin that just makes you want to, like, I just want to punch him, right? But the problem is with the actor they put there in the in place of him, he's just a good-looking guy, and the way he portrays his lines in the story is, like, very, how do I say it? It's very one-dimensional and very just, like, stone-cold kind of serious. If you actually, like, play The Witcher 3, like, Gaunter O'Dim is, like, the perfect example of what Randall Flag is supposed to represent and be like.
Gaunter O'Dim, also known...
Not what I'm asking.
Ah, so you'd rather know what it is I do. In brief, I give folk what they ask for. You might say, I simply grant their wishes.
And drop them in a world of hurt.
No, not I. That would be their poorly formulated wishes. I'm no cheat. I give folk what they want, nothing more. That the oft desire unworthy things, that is entirely the fault of their rotten natures.
You're not human, that's clear. So what are you? A demon? A djinn?
Do you really wish to know?
Yes.
No, Geralt. You don't. This one time I shall spare you and not grant your wish. All who have learned my true name are now either dead or have met an even worse fate. Yet I still need you.
He's like an asshole. He is serious, but he's like jokey and kind of like charismatic and nonchalant about everything. But it feels like in this show, he's very, very serious. He's like overly serious, and it's like he's trying to pull off the bad guy vibe so hard that he's like not getting the character correct. And like, I don't know, man, it's just me. He just did not pull it off for me. The other thing is too, Randall Flag in The Stand, at least until the very end, he is like, you understand that he has some sort of like magical powers, and he's kind of like, he's like a mysterious force to be reckoned with, but like, it's not like completely directly in your face. They kind of like leave it up to a little bit of mystery, and in this show, it's like everything is just like placed on the table. Like, he's magical. He's like a wizard. It's like Gandalf, but in like the Fallout universe, and it's just, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this show too long. I know I kind of rambled on a little bit, but they just, it just, I don't know if it's the director, I don't know if it's the writers. I think it's just not a very good book to translate into like a TV show or a movie. It's just not one of those shows, and it just, I don't know, man. It just doesn't work, in my opinion. So for me, if I was gonna give this show a rating, it'd be like a D+, a C, maybe, if you really like the characters. Now, for me, I've read the book, so I kind of was expecting certain things. Maybe if you walk into this blindly and you don't know anything about The Stand, you might enjoy it more than me, but I don't think so. I think actually knowing some stuff about the book makes you want to, like, see more. You know what I mean? I think if you just came into the show with, like, just completely, like, blank slate and you haven't seen anything before or read anything from Stephen King, and you don't know Randall Flag or any of the characters, I think this might even be worse for you, because it's actually, like, it's kind of boring. They drag on a lot. There doesn't seem to almost be, like, a real point in the show, and it sucks to say. You don't want to say it. It's just not. It's not the greatest show. It's just not. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give it a D. A D+. I'll give it a D+. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube business, and see ya. Hey, you made it to the end. That means you must enjoy my content, so go ahead and tap that subscribe button for me. And if you don't like my content, subscribe anyways. My videos are proven to make your schlong longer. Follow me on Parler if you want additional content updates, or if you want to interact with me personally. And join my BitChute channel for additional content. Thanks, you guys. See ya.